myself. Yeah. I'm feeling myself.
Welcome back to another episode of Loose Ends, everyone. I'm Cece.
I'm Val.
And we co-host this crazy little half-hour delightful walk into somewhere every single we never know. Every week, and we appreciate those who like to listen along or watch along with us. Today, we are starting a brand new year. And though we're probably in different spaces and places, and we're not actually posting this until after the new year because we decided to take a week off. So, hello, we're back. We wanted to share with you, in typical fashion, as we did last year, the notion that we don't set goals per se for the New Year's resolutions, which for most people, I think has a lot to do with I'm going to do this. Or I'm not going to do that anymore. And it has to do with doing this as opposed to being this. I'm going to read 3 more books. I'm going to exercise. I'm going to lose weight. I'm going to make more money. I'm going to. So
I'm going to give myself a reason not to like myself just a little bit more because I'm not going to follow through on any of that fucking shit. And that's what it really comes down to, right? So that's why I refuse to do New Year goals.
Don't do goals because the chances are when you say you're going to do this and it's a sweeping universal change from here to here, 180 degrees in the opposite direction. I'm going to go from doing this all the time to doing it no times at all. And then the first time you do it, you're like, I am a bad person.
Exactly. Another reason to hate yourself.
I'll slink off to my cave and another reason not to come out again.
Yeah.
So we do intentions.
Mm-hmm.
What do we intend for the year? And for me anyway, it is an opportunity to kind of look at the fuel behind the desired end result. So what is fueling that I'm not going to do this anymore, whatever that is. But why? There's the key question, why? And so intentions have to do with here's what I intend, but I don't fail if I don't do something about it. It has its own kind of organic nature to it.
And doesn't hold this timeline and, this usually end result I'm not, it's not, I wouldn't make an intention of it's my intention to lose 100 pounds. My intention would be, it's my intention to live healthier.
Yes.
So there's,
to get healthy. And one objective underneath that intention might be to lose weight.
Sure.
But you wouldn't want to say, I'm going to lose 100 pounds
in 100 days. It's my intention to lose. Yes, you wouldn't do that. You leave intention. Up for failure that way. Yeah, you leave intention with a more leeway, I guess, and more room to grow, like you said, organically,
and to explore what it might lead to that you don't have access to in terms of information or
at that present time.
At that present time. So, I did this a few days back, and before the new year, and kind of did a review. I'm looking at my little pieces of paper here, but. In 2024, a year ago, my intention was to nourish joy. And I believe that I didn't go back and actually check.
Me neither.
But it changed to the word cultivate. Mm. Or it was the other way around, and I can't remember right now. So it doesn't matter. But those 2 words were involved. And so the idea of nourishing then becomes an important part of my intention for the year. What am I nourishing? My body, as you were referring to, getting healthier. The outdoors. I have created a beautiful little backyard garden this year. Asked me if I'm going to do it again next. Probably not. A lot of work. Yeah. And the squirrels. I'm losing to the squirrels.
It's a losing ballot. Yeah.
They
came up and
they like to bury their nuts in my pots.
Yeah, but close to the house. Like the first year they didn't do it for some odd reason. It's like they were afraid of us for the first year, and then
I think they were afraid of the cats. They had a healthy respect for 3 cats.
Yeah.
And now they don't.
No,
They have
no.
lost
Something happened
all
along the way.
respect for the
Respect
cats.
has been lost. Yes.
So, in terms of cultivating joy, here are the things that and again, I just jotted this down, okay? I looked deeper into me through a coaching client who gave me the wonderful opportunity to delve into a book called The Origins of You, which I'm looking over here, and it's right there, but I can't grab it right now. I didn't think ahead of myself well enough. But The Origins of You, and I worked through this book with her in 5 months, and it was a really eye-opening, strengthening, clarifying experience, and I'm grateful to her for paying me to help her do work that I enjoyed. All my clients made progress this year. You know, all the clients,
That's nice.
you know, as I sat and punched rewind, because that's part of this process. It's not just looking ahead and kind of turning a blind eye on the past, but rather to go more clear-eyed into the future. I'm looking at a couple of quotes here I looked up. Here's one. A new year stands before us like a chapter in a book waiting to be written. Melody Beattie said that. I mean, you know, that's an analogy a lot of people use. But I like this one from T.S. Eliot that follows it in this particular place. I found it. For last year's words belong to last year's language.
Oh.
And next year's words await another voice. Mm-hmm. And that made me think about what voice do I want to take forward and think ahead. So here's where I went. I mean, it's kind of, and the last thing that it needs really, really high points of what I'm giving myself credit for, right? Really taking like, you know, a 30,000 foot view as opposed to going and walking the valleys and the mountaintops, but going, oh yeah, there were some mountaintops and oh, there were some valleys, but here are the high points for me. And the last piece is that I have found a new level of internal peace through acceptance of the way things are. And I want to thank
Don't. If it's what I think you're gonna do, don't do it. Please don't fucking do it. Keep that to yourself.
I'm gonna say the American people. How about that? I will say which I am one.
Yes.
For electing someone who has caused me so many opportunities to learn tolerance, acceptance, and what does true peace look like when all around me is visually and verbally represented. And oh God, we're going back into that of him being on the news all the time. That kind of framework of learning that it's all a fucking show. Totally. It's all a fucking show. Totally. And I'm not gonna go there anymore. It is what it is. Yeah. Anyway, excuse me. Here's where I am going on in 2025. This is really simple, but it's not. Instead of cultivating joy, I want to harvest it. And I thought about this. What's my intention this year? Well, I have some strong desires, and one of them you know about. And I will share with the audience. I wrote a book called 4 Fridays with Christina, and it did well enough that, like, if it's the last thing I ever wrote, I'd be pleased and proud of it. It won a national award, and every person who's read it has indicated they've enjoyed it, or learned from it, or laughed, or cried, or both, or all. So that's good enough for me, right? It's not about the numbers associated, but I wrote a screenplay because somebody reached out about a potential movie, and even if that never pans out, it opened up a door of possibilities that I had never even thought about. So a desired end result would be, oh, goody, maybe somebody's really gonna, like make a movie of the book I wrote. That would be very cool. That's not an intention. That's just a highly desired kind of outcome. But the notion of harvesting joy, because here's where I went. If you're cultivating or you're nourishing, and or both, you're planting seeds and you're watering it.
Yeah.
Right? And you're making sure that roots take or the sprouts take root. You're making sure that things, as it's growing, is protected.
But when you're harvesting, you're reaping the benefits.
Right. That's what I wrote. I wrote, pluck the fruits of my labor.
Exactly. That's why harvest is so wonderful.
And harvesting still requires effort and work. It indicates, however, an end of a time frame. Does that make sense? And of a season.
Yeah.
Harvest season is the end of everything, and then you store it. I'm going way back, folks. I never really lived this reality, but I understand that in earlier years, this is what happened. And you put your seeds away and you make sure you've got all your canned goods or your jarred goods to get through the winter.
Yep.
And then you go to rest. Winter is about rest. Winter is about
Well, I mean, I don't even
restoration.
think people worked back in the 1800s and 1700s. I mean, people worked for money, but I don't think they worked during the winter months.
No, winter was about survival.
Right, and that was just
can
it.
We get through it?
Do you have enough in your smoked meat shed
in your larder
to figure it all out, right? And so, I mean, much harsher times, but harvest still can mean
So it means enjoying it, but also recognizing there's some work to get to finish it off. So I wrote down a couple of areas in which I would hope that this intention shows up in a couple of different ways. And interestingly, and I'm not going to share this right now, but you're very well aware that the fact that I took the time to do this coincides with something else that... Yes. And so, you don't get to know that part yet. I'll tell you about that later. But that's something that I just now am connecting. The fact that I wrote this down, again, I want you to think about this, and then I'll finally let her talk because I'm apparently on a roll today. Who knew? Neural pathways. You think an idea, you imagine it, you put words to it, you voice it, you write it, you externalize it from an internal to an external, you've already created it. That's how neural pathways are created. This is why, they say the lucky stay lucky and, success breeds success. Yeah, the neural pathways get stronger and stronger.
Well, there was some test, and I think it was on cells. Yes, okay. Where they actually had, somebody who lost a finger or something, or I'm not sure, but
this is sounding familiar.
They put the cells were in two different places. But one was two different laboratories, and when
one was stimulated, the other felt it, that kind of thing. Yeah, and I've heard of those same tests with leaves, with plants.
Yeah, and so I think that's really fascinating to understand that it still doesn't recognize it's separated from the whole.
Yeah.
And so which makes you understand phantom limb syndrome and things like that, if it's, because it kind of is still there.
God, how did we get here? Because where I went is phantom limbs also exist in divorce situations. You feel the other person is still there. I remember having this talk with my therapist at the time of, the divorce from my children's father. And that was the one that, rocked me to the core. And he said, no, it's like phantom. What did you call it? Phantom what? When you think you have, phantom limb.
Phantom limb, yeah.
He said it's like a phantom limb.
Yeah, I could see that. Especially if you've been married to somebody and you sleep next to them. There is some huge significance to that, right?
Right. So maybe, because I don't know, we started off so lighthearted. I know. And it was my intention.
I know. Well, you know what? We said at the beginning.
let's acknowledge, that we're coming to the end, or when you watch this, we will be at the end of a holiday season that may or may not have been all warm and fuzzy and wonderful for you. That's truth.
Yeah.
A lot of us go home to family and find that it never lives up to the hopes that we wanted for it. I hear this from clients all the time. I've had that experience myself. And so that's one of the reasons, look at her bring it home. Whoop, whoop. That's one of the reasons we set intentions and not goals. And we're encouraging you to do the same. Set yourself up for success, not failure. You wanted to share your intention for 25 because I've talked to that.
I only have one, but it embodies a lot of space.
Of course it does.
Tell
us about your space.
Well, it comes back to something. I remember the very first hands-on healer I ever saw. And I was like young. I think I was like 24. And this woman was very, professional and curt. You remind me, you remind me a little bit of her. And so when I
call
was
that clear.
So, she was in her 50s, I'd say, mid 50s when I was in my mid 20s, right?
Yeah, that comes across as intimidating.
Yes.
Sure.
So, I remember like her asking me problems in my life, and I was probably explaining something that, today I would feel sounds ridiculous. But, at the time I did not. Were. And I remember her looking at me and going, so what? And I had nowhere to go with that. I was mad she said it, but I couldn't express that I was mad that she said it because really, so the fuck what? Right?
Yeah.
Because that's what it comes, because you're in that moment of what? Okay. Like, so it shuts you down. And now recognizing that I was being shut down from going into, a story that didn't need to be told, because I had not yet mastered the art of the ability to, connect it to an emotion I was feeling. Right?
It was still
It
the
was
story.
It was a story. It was
still intellectual.
Story.
It wasn't.
Yes.
You weren't able to translate it.
Exactly.
Now,
So,
and I think that's an important point. And maybe we want to do a show on this down the road of, like the lexicon of the heart and the soul, and how it communicates through feelings. Yes. And it's almost like, an English-French dictionary.
And it is because it changes, and you grow and your beliefs change. And this is what I think in my whole journey, one of the most important things I've ever heard is that a belief is not set in stone, that it is malleable, it can change. And I've watched my belief systems change over the years, so I understand that's very true. And it leads you to this place of understanding that there are 1,000 other perspectives, maybe even more, that
probably around 8 billion.
Right. Yeah. Many more perspectives that I myself haven't even explored.
So,
right. So what it comes down to is I have had through my life the tendencies, and I've gotten a lot better at it through the last 20 years for sure. But, it's still there where I can feel rage for somebody else. I can feel rage for a situation. Obviously the Trump thing sent me, I know that. But I know that when I focus on that, it's problematic for me.
Yeah.
It doesn't bring me any peace. It just brings chaos into my life. So there was a great example over September, right before I went to Nova Scotia, where I had actually got laid off from my job. And I wasn't upset about it because I was expecting to be laid off, but a month later. And I just wasn't upset about it. But I realized that I had prepared myself in the summer, that I had this little nest egg. And that was the key, was to always keep preparing, whether that, and I'm going like an emotional metaphor now, is like emotionally always keep preparing for the next step,
so
the
is
next
that your
level.
Intention? Is that
so my intention is to really look at a lot of problems that I have taken very personal and go, so what? and not
Wonder
in a
what
way
that would be
of,
called.
not in a way of, I don't give a damn.
No,
Because I give a damn
it's
too
about
much.
being a little less personal with it, and I
Yes.
can get on board with that.
Yes.
You know, I'm
That's
gonna
exactly
piggyback
what
on
it
that
is.
one too. I like that.
I'm
going to harvest joy
so what?
from. How did you say it again?
So what? You see, here's where I went to.
I got to find a way to
Is
tie
this
together.
going to affect my life personally? If the answer is no, then it doesn't get to have any focus.
What I was saying about nothing in my current reality has changed except the way I'm looking at it.
Right.
Which is colored by the fear of an alternative future that I did not desire.
Yeah, and if it is affecting my life, that's when I'll look for a solution. But until then, I won't put any thought into it. Because I know my brain has already done a lot of work.
Well,
in that
part of harvesting for me, just to expand on that notion too, is knowing where to put one's focus and when. Because when you're picking fruit, and I don't know why I'm going to like a bunch of like an orchard or something, but even in the fields, yes, you're going down rows, but you're also grabbing the ripest right now. I mean, because you're not picking everything all at the same exact moment. You're just in harvest time.
Yeah.
All these trees, and I don't know, they turned into apple trees. I'm going to make them peach. I want peaches. Okay, so peach trees. Mm-hmm. And it's time. But the actual season of it is very short. It's only a few weeks.
Yes.
They grow, they get fat, they fall, and hopefully you pick them before they fall so that you have these beautiful sweet peaches, right? Mm-hmm. And then we purchase them and we're lucky. And we have people who grow them nearby, so we get fresh ones. Well, that's the idea here. That's the intention, but it doesn't say where. I could do that with my grandchildren. Mm-hmm. Harvest joy with them through some way that is as yet unknown to me.
Sure.
That it would be a more organic, as they say, allowing it to occur as opposed to trying to make it occur, which is the difference again between the goal setting and the intention making.
But, and I will bring this around to tell you that what was a pleasant surprise is when I didn't worry in September, a job dropped in my lap. Well, literally.
Frequency attracts frequency.
I wouldn't panic. I wasn't going to that place. And I was like, And then all of a sudden it just dropped. And I was like, whoa, okay. Well, this is what it's like not to give to the negative pipeline, right?
Right.
And it took me a long time to really get this.
Yeah, don't feed the wolf inside. There's that whole thing.
Yeah, do not feed that negative side, right? And I believe, there's a way to, have both the wolves right here, calm and fucking collected.
Well, and I remember an interview that I read of M. Scott Peck, who wrote The Road Less Traveled and many, many other books, and is a world-renowned psychologist. He used to talk about befriending, as many great spiritual gurus have, of befriending, the dark wolf versus the light wolf. Yeah. The revengeful wolf versus the forgiving wolf. That kind of, dichotomy, right, of light and dark and good and bad and evil and that kind of thing inside of each of us. And how do you do that? And the Indian, of course, it replies, for those who may not have heard this very common analogy, the Indian replies to his grandson, it all depends on, how can I determine what kind of wolf I'll become, Grandpa? Well, it depends on which wolf you feed. Yeah. And so that's the idea here is we're going to feed this year, because this harvest season is going to be a little longer than 2 weeks. Okay, that's just peaches. I've been around longer. This harvest season is going to be a little bit longer. I don't know how that's going to look. I just know that it is time to begin to really harvest. And when I played with, well, wait a minute, I used joy last year. I used,
Yeah, but I don't think it's an end. It's an ongoing.
It is an ongoing thing. And this is the first time I've ever done this, where I piggybacked from last year's intention that went well by my own assessment. Because usually I'm the hardest person I know on me, right?
But that's why you did intentions to begin with, so that you wouldn't be hard on you, because that's what goals were, right?
It's a lot nicer to get around to the end of the year and do an assessment when you're going, hey, I actually did cultivate some joy here. Wait a minute. Yeah, now that I think about it, it's that kind of an assessment as opposed to, I fucking failed the first month, stop going to the gym. I don't know why I signed up on that membership.
And that's why I don't do New Year's goals, but I do things that I'm going to actually take to heart, really. And it was a nice surprise to have that little situation happen for me. So it just shot me back. That little situation of, oh, well, now I just forgot because I was on a roll.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay. What was my little situation?
I don't know. It doesn't matter. That little situation. Oh, about losing your job.
Yes. And
then feeling prepared and everything else.
But not even feeling prepared, not giving in. Not
to that
there was a
despair.
negative. Yeah, there was a negative part that wanted me to despair, and I was like, no, I won't do it. And a lot of times
that would
lately,
be easier to go ahead and feel bad.
And I'm really lucky because as a healer, I do have a lot of things to draw back on, and so I've just been doing the Reiki principles, like which are really important to me, because the first two are like, I will not worry and I will not anger. That covers it all for me, right? Like, I don't even really need to go farther. I do, but I don't need to.
I got off track a little bit about the two wolves and wanting to complete that as a story. But the idea is that I am increasingly more forgiving with the demons that I live with, that are my own personal ones.
Me too.
I don't get to leave behind. That's just that they're my companions. They walk with me, and the idea is to befriend them over time, such that one no longer needs to run from them, nor fear them, nor fight them.
Yeah.
But just to be with them. And M. Scott Peck, in one of his last interviews that I read about, said, I've made peace with my demons. Yeah, the gentleman, this is going way back, this is 30 plus years ago. It was Psychology Today, and I just remember this. And the only reason that I bring it up is because obviously I was outraged enough that it lodged.
Yeah.
And I now remember it because I so agreed with his response. And the question from the journalist was, you call yourself a Christian, but you drink and you smoke.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
I know. And
I hope to God Jesus Christ was a weed smoker, man.
I hope he was. I'm sure he was Bob Marley.
Or a mushroom taker.
I think he was Bob Marley. Came back as Bob. But wouldn't he be? That'd be awful.
That would be fitting.
Yo, man.
No, dude. Bob was like pure God.
Anyway, that the idea is, he just simply replied, I've made peace with my demons, and it showed such restraint and grace and tolerance for that kind of shallow, lower level thinking to be formulated in the form of that question, because it totally reveals the.
Right.
You call yourself a Christian, and a good Christian wouldn't drink or smoke. Oh, for fuck's sake, give me a break.
Oh,
you
and
just lost a lot of people right there who are very good people. We all have light, we all have dark. It's how quickly do we get up? How quickly do we get back to the dance of life when we have stumbled and fallen? It's not if we do. It's when we will.
Sure.
Because we all do.
Oh, there's nothing.
Oh, and on that reassuring, uplifting note, have you a feel-good story?
I do.
Because we just want you to set an intention, everybody.
And what's
interesting
about my feel-good story, and you wouldn't have known this. Okay, so we've got...
I'm sure I don't.
Vladislav Dude, who is from the Ukraine, and he is 28 years old. And to avoid being drafted into the war, he decided to take his 4-month-old kitten and put it in his jacket and hike across the mountains to get to Romania. They found him
to avoid being drafted.
Yes.
Okay.
They found him, and because he had just found this cat
And
3
he
months
wanted to
earlier, and
keep the cat.
he didn't want to leave the cat and give up the cat. He had fallen
just
in
love
love,
this
right?
story.
I do love this story. So anyway, they found him in Romania, and the cat's name is Peaches.
Oh, perfect.
I know, right? How
Peach
crazy
tree,
is that?
a peach tree.
Peaches, they found, and when they found him, he just kept asking about the cat. How's the cat? How's the cat? And they pretty much figured that this cat, so close to his heart, saved his life during
the
this
warmth.
trek. And now he's...
Did he get the cat back?
Oh, yeah, he's got the cat, and he's a refugee right now in...
Wherever
Romania.
the country, Romania.
Yeah, so, but very heartwarming, right?
It's
Him and
quite
Peaches are
literally.
together. Yeah,
Peaches,
literally,
a
yes.
heartwarmer.
Yes.
Well, everyone, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, everybody.
I'm not sure I said that at the beginning of the show, but
Well, you did say...
darn, 2025 is going to be a very interesting and potentially tumultuous year for a lot of people. In the midst of that, remember this. You get to control the story that you tell about what it is you experience on the outside. You get to control the internal on the inside.
Yeah.
Okay? So part of that is set an intention. Set an intention for this year to keep you rising above the sinkhole that can get us all if we allow
Right.
it.
And maybe your intention is to, watch the news a lot less.
Read more,
Yeah.
less TV, more books. There you go. Something like that. Yeah.
Connect
but
with
not,
people.
I'm going to
Connect.
read a book every week.
Yeah, don't...
Because the first week you don't, you've failed. And
Right.
your brain goes, we don't care. We've lodged that as a
Keep
failure.
your intentions in a lenient place, like a place that you can, that has
No fences.
no fences. Yeah.
Let them graze.
Let them graze. Exactly. Let
And on
those
that note,
dreams
have a
graze.
wonderful week, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.